What's up, everybody? Big Bleeding Blue and Gray is back with part two of our comparison of rappers to Big East coaches. Is Thad Matta Chief Keef? I don't know, but stay tuned and find out. Owen, what's up, man?
Nothing much. Doing well. What about you?
Just the work, and we're actually been put some real thought into this episode. I went through and tried to listen to as much of this music as possible. It was cool to remember songs that I'd forgotten and
Yeah.
reconsider some people who I probably either respected too much or respected too little. So I'm excited to talk about it with you.
Yeah, it was interesting that you used Thad Matta to introduce the show. I mean, obviously not the biggest name that we are talking about, but it can generate a lot of buzz as he obviously is a great coach and has been for a while now. So, yeah, we have 6 coaches that we are going to talk about today. We have Dan Hurley, UConn, Greg McDermott, Creighton, Shaka Smart, Marquette, Kevin Willard, Villanova, Thad Matta of Butler, and last but not least, Chris Holtman from DePaul. So should we start it off?
Well, first, if you haven't seen part one, go back and watch part one. Would love to hear your thoughts on that, and put in the comments if you think our rankings or comparisons are correct or not. But yeah, let's start this one. Who do you have for Hurley as a comparison?
Yeah, Dan Hurley. There's been a lot of talk about what my thoughts are on Dan Hurley in the past couple of weeks,
So
months.
you've taken some straight, or actually not strays. You just straight out bullets.
Yeah, I've been taking some bullets, but I stand with my takes. But despite my takes about Dan Hurley, despite me thinking about how he is as a coach, he's still an amazing coach no matter what. He's obviously at UConn, has brought in many championships. And that's why I have Dan Hurley as Kendrick Lamar. They're super technical. They're disciplined. They can create stuff. They're very good at creating and putting stuff together. And also, Dan Hurley, I don't think is really about all the flash, but really the results of his team. I don't think he is a big media presence. Isaiah Abraham, a player who transferred to Georgetown this offseason, posted a TikTok, and all the comments were, I'm showing this to Hurley. I'm showing this to Hurley from his past teammates. It just shows the level of discipline and seriousness that Dan Hurley comes with. And I think that it's kind of the same thing as Kendrick Lamar. I think they both don't really need to prove anything anymore. I don't think Kendrick has to prove really anything because everyone knows he's a genius and he's an amazing artist. And I think Hurley also doesn't need to prove that he's a killer coach because of his success at UConn, despite the fact that Ed Cooley's a better one. But I just think that they both don't have that much to prove. They're both very big names in the game. They're both very well known by almost everyone, and they're both just not really flashy. They're more they can show what they need to show by how they coach and how they rap.
Yeah, I agree with what you said about being known by everyone, because people I know who don't listen to rap at all know who Kendrick Lamar is and generally what his whole vibe is and some of his songs. So I think it's a good comparison in that way. Don't you think? Kendrick seems like a little more chill though as a human being than Dan Hurley.
I mean, I've definitely seen Kendrick get on the angrier side. Him and Drake's rap battle, obviously, there's just been a lot of talk about Kendrick Lamar. So I've definitely seen him on the angrier side. I've seen Dan on the angrier side. But yeah, completely agree. Obviously, Dan, he's a little crazy when it comes to some things. We've seen it. We've seen him kind of lose his cool in many games, but doesn't change the fact that he is an amazing coach and that who do you have?
So I thought a lot about this and I couldn't settle on one. So is it okay if I give you two
let's
names?
hear it. Yeah, let's hear it.
So I think Hurley is Drake / Kanye. And I said it because at his peak, unstoppable. Nobody even close, right? And that's UConn's back-to-back run. Same with Drake and Kanye. When they're on their game, they're unbeatable. Both are very versatile artists, and Hurley's won very differently at Rhode Island than he's won at UConn. Rhode Island, obviously, he didn't have any stars, and it was really guard heavy, and they played very fast, and they got transition buckets mainly, and really relied on the athleticism of the guys he could recruit there. And then at UConn, obviously, he could recruit better, right? So he got more stars. He runs more in the half court now than he used to. It's more inside out, a lot more structured. And then, like you said in the last episode about Drake, like there's no middle ground. Either you love him or hate him. And I think it's the same thing about same thing with Kanye, and definitely same thing about her. They're brash. They love the attention. They're completely divisive public figures.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with the Drake take. Kanye, I mean, I don't really see it as much as the Drake take. I understand where you're coming from with like the prime, because obviously the prime of Kanye, he was one of the best artists in the game. But just like as people, they're very different. I feel like, obviously. But yeah, I definitely agree with the Drake take. And also, as you said, Rhode Island, he didn't have much. He came to UConn, a blue blood, gets all these recruiting lines, which also kind of adds to my point about Ed Cooley versus Dan Hurley. It's just like when he has the blue blood lines of recruiting, when he has the money, I feel like any coach can really do anything. And that's kind of what my point was. And I think that Ed did a great job at Providence and has been doing a great job at Georgetown, and has built back up Georgetown's reputation.
Right.
That was kind of stepped over and kind of just like cooked up after Patrick Ewing's era. And Patrick Ewing, when he was here, we would obviously be talking to these great prospects, but we couldn't really land any of them. So yeah, I completely agree. Drake as Dan Hurley.
Another couple of things I was thinking about between all three of them is that they're both. It's very hard for people to separate their feelings about the person from their body of work, right? So people obviously, Kanye is like has had some real problems and has is anti-Semitic, has done a lot of crazy things. Drake, a lot of people think Drake is kind of unserious and too emo, and that he's too obsessed with being famous rather than working on his craft. And then Hurley has Hurley wins, right? And so it's hard all the time, and he does it in this way that people find really annoying unless you're a UConn fan, and like he's just too intense. And he's spoken out in his the latest book about how he was burnt out and he almost went to Lakers because of that. So I think if you can put aside all their your problems with their personal quirks, you see that all of them are really talented and have done great things.
Yeah.
Before the last thing I was going to say, they're both also very. I don't know if introspective is the right word, but they've all talked about sort of their struggles with mental health. Kanye, obviously, since his mom died, has just gone in a very different direction, and Drake has always been criticized for being too emotional and too soft. And then Hurley's talking very openly about struggling with depression and burnout at various times in his career.
Yeah. Before we move on to Creighton, just like I don't think Dan Hurley, I think he should have definitely taken that Lakers job, because I don't think he's ever going to get an opportunity to coach for a team of that caliber. As we see, like the New York Knicks, I don't even think they were really considering bringing in Hurley. And it's just like the year I think he should have went. He should have packed up his bags, went to Los Angeles, and played being a coach for one of the best teams, one of the best players ever, the best player ever in LeBron. I just feel like he's never going to get that deal again. And now moving on to Creighton, Greg McDermott, which I compared to J. Cole.
Okay.
And the reason why is because they're both smooth, they're both consistent, they're both respected. In my opinion, they're not flashy, and they're always producing. They're always going to be a competitive name no matter what. And you're not going to get wowed from every game from Greg McDermott. He got blown out by 30 by the Georgetown Hoyas last year. But the results will always be solid from this Creighton team. And even with many question marks this year, for example, losing Culk, you losing Ashworth, you still think that this team's going to be good just because they have a guy like Greg McDermott at the wheel. He's driving them around. I mean, he is the winningest coach ever. He's the most wins ever for Creighton basketball. He is just an amazing coach for them, and no one will ever be able to replace what he has done with Creighton.
And what about J. Cole? What do you?
I mean, in my opinion, J. Cole is one of my favorite artists. I think he has reached the younger generations more than the older ones, 100%. I think his music is very calm, smooth, and just like relaxing. And I think Greg McDermott is kind of a more relaxed guy. I mean, I have never really seen him be screaming, yelling at the top of his lungs like I've seen Hurley. And he just reminds me of just like kind of a softer rap vibe, which is J. Cole.
Yeah, and just to remind people about the Big East Energy Network, Casey, who's our colleague, who actually was a video guy for Creighton, you should check him out on Roll J's podcast. He would have a lot to say about Greg McDermott, having worked for him for a while. This is one that I didn't have to think too hard about this. The comparison I would make is Snoop Dogg. So they've been around for a long time. McDermott's been at Creighton since 2010. I first saw, Snoop in like the early 90s rapping with Dre on Deep Cover. They're both very respected by their peers. They both kind of have like a very chill, calm demeanor and like kind of a cool uncle vibe. They're not really chasing headlines. But then occasionally they do something really impressive, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that he was still that guy. Like, obviously Creighton had that run to the Elite Eight, and then Snoop every once in a while comes out with a remix like Peaches that he did with Justin Bieber, and so they've got some comparisons there, and I think they both just know who they are. They stay in their lane. Yeah. No drama. If the spotlight comes to them, cool. If it doesn't, they're good.
Completely. And I feel like that's kind of a similar vibe to J. Cole, like in the reasoning, except one of them has obviously been around for way longer. So I feel like they're very similar players, and we kind of had the same thought process, even though we landed on two different rappers. Mm-hmm. So now Marquette, Shaka Smart. I had two for this one, but one of them was for a different reason than I said last episode. So Shaka Smart, I had one as Drake, but it's not because of him being the best. It's not any of that. It's because this is a very small reason, but we've seen Shaka Smart not use the transfer portal many times and just go with what he has. And I think Drake is a type of guy who does not change his music based off of the world and what's happening around him. Like, if he wanted to, he could change his style and he could change it to, let's say, house music, which a lot of people my age, I feel like, are listening to now. But instead, he keeps his same vibe and people are going to like him no matter what. And I think Shaka, until he proves that people should not like him and root for him, then that's it's going to stay as him being a top dog in the Big East. And the other one I had was Travis Scott. And this was more for high energy purposes. They're both electric. They both thrive in like chaos and hype, and their team feeds off of them. Like Travis's at a concert, I've been to a concert, you could just see he feeds off of the crowd. When the crowd is going crazy, he's going crazy, and he makes the crowd crazy as well. And you just can't help but get caught up in both of these guys' work and just their team and how they thrive off of each other.
You read my mind. I got Travis Scott too for Shaka. They're both really intense, high energy, impossible to ignore, because Shaka is so far out of the coach's box. It's ridiculous in a lot of games. They both have these very out of nowhere bursts onto the scene. Shaka with VCU and his whole Havoc approach, and Travis Scott with Rodeo, which was a huge hit that really captured, that album really captured the high energy, chaotic nature of Travis Scott's vibe. But they've both been inconsistent. Shaka had some real flameouts in Texas, right? And I think Travis Scott he's had some hits on some of his albums, but nothing great, nothing classic. I think after the whole Astroworld fiasco that he got, maybe that affected him mentally or something. But they've both been kind of up and down with
completely agree
with their success. And but they've reinvented themselves. Obviously, Shaka took the job at Marquette. I think Utopia, which Travis dropped a couple of years ago, was a really good album. And then on to the negative, I think their reputations are a little outpacing their actual performance.
Yeah.
So I don't know. People love Shaka. He obviously had that run in BCU, but he's never really been back there. And I think the same thing that Travis has never gotten back to the heights he had earlier as an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. We obviously had the same person, so we both pretty much agree. So let's move on to Villanova and their new coach, Kevin Willard from Maryland. And I said Big Sean for this. The reason why is because they're both consistent and solid people, but they have a few big moments here and there. I just don't think they're really top tier. I think that they're both respectable, but elite, not quite. I feel like a Big East tournament championship and a regular season championship with Seton Hall, a Big Ten coach of the year, and Sweet 16 appearance with Maryland, and 7 NCAA tournament appearances across his entire coaching career, where he's had 355 victories, which is Kevin Willard. I don't think that's an elite coach. I don't think that's a top coach. I don't think that's someone that Villanova should be jumping up and down about. But obviously he's a respectable coach, and you have to respect him because of the work he's done. I feel like he's not that guy like some of the other coaches in the Big East, like Ed.
Big Sean is from my hometown, so I have like some fondness for him, but you're absolutely right. Big Sean is very good, not great.
Yeah.
A solid work, not going to blow you out of the water.
No.
Unless something changes, when people write about the history of rap at this time, they're probably not going to mention Big Sean.
Exactly.
And that takes nothing away from what he's accomplished. He's just not at that level of other guys.
Yeah.
I thought Willard was really like Meek Mill. Both very scrappy Philly guys now, obviously. Or Willard's now, in Villanova. Underrated. They've all, overshadowed by mentors like Willard, overshadowed by Pitino, Meek Mill sort of by Drake. They both have this massive chip on their shoulder because of that. They're always trying to prove that they belong, with varying levels of success in doing that. Just like I said about Shaka, though, there's some inconsistency to what they've done. There's flashes of brilliance, but it's uneven. Seton Hall, as any UConn fan will tell you, Seton Hall would always beat them, basically.
Yeah.
Or if not beat them, give them a really tough game. And then I think Meek's catalog is hit or miss. I think for every good album, he's got a bad album. Both of them have recently jumped to bigger stages. Meek Mill going to Maybach Music, and then obviously Willard going from Maryland to Villanova. So the pressure.
Do you think that's a bigger stage, Maryland to Villanova?
I do. Now I think.
Really. I mean, I just think there's higher expectations from Maryland, obviously, with Derek Queen last season and being one of the best teams in the nation, compared to a team like Villanova that's supposed to have like a huge backwards step this season and kind of become a bottom team in the Big East, in my opinion. One of like the last 4. I feel like I kind of disagree with you on that singular point. I think personally Kevin Willard is taking a step down, but I think it's kind of a lateral step because you're going to a school like Villanova. It's in the Big East. It's whatever. But I mean, I just feel like Maryland's a better team. They will be a better team, and I think they have better recruiting. I think bringing a guy like Derek Queen to the NBA draft just helps their recruiting, and I feel like he should have stayed if he was looking for stage. But I think he was kind of trying to take a step back, but still being in a power conference like the Big East.
That's an interesting point. I'll think about this some more after we're done recording, because there's the case to be made that Villanova is not a great job. It's that they had a great coach for a very long time who obviously had a lot of success. Yeah. But Jay Wright is going to be really hard act to follow.
Yeah. I mean, if we're thinking about, like, I guess maybe you were thinking about conference-wise, Big East to Big Ten, but
yeah, I think a lot of people say Big Ten is a better conference, but Maryland has never really found an identity within the Big Ten. I mean, they have no natural, like, who's their rival?
I mean, Maryland was a number 4 seed in the March Madness last season, so I mean, Big Ten sent 8 teams into the tournament. I just feel like they're obviously, in my opinion, they were a better team. They're a better team than Villanova is, and I feel like there was no real reason for him to say, I'm going to pack up my bags at a place like Maryland and decide to go to Villanova, except for the fact that he maybe saw something in Villanova that no one else sees. But the chances of that, I think, are pretty low.
Yeah, I think 2 things with Willard. One, I think he wanted to get back to that part of the country. And then 2, he wanted to be the big dog on campus. Like Maryland, even though Maryland football is mid, college football is just bigger sport than college basketball.
And Villanova just got basically taken away from college football, and it's now
Villanova actually has pretty good FCS.
Yeah, they're college
football. They're usually ranked in the top 25, but that no one, that's not
it's not,
except for the very top of FCS. People don't really pay attention.
Yeah, but I mean, and Maryland also, like, Maryland is a pretty good like, obviously they're not a best football team in the nation, but they
produce NFL players.
Exactly, yeah. And they have one of the best freshman quarterbacks in college football right now.
Yeah, Malik,
but moving on, I actually have someone as Meek Mill as well. It's Chris Holtmann, DePaul head coach, and I think they both came in with energy and expectations, and the results of that just haven't really matched the hype. I think every now and then they'll drop a big win that reminds everyone that, like, he's a good coach. Georgetown, for example. But I think he struggles with consistency, and his fans are still waiting for a breakout run from DePaul. And I think this year is the year that he's going to be able to do that, because I love this DePaul team this year, if I'm going to be honest. I think that they are a top 5, maybe top 6 team in the Big East. I love this team. And the more I look at this team, the more I like them. And I just feel like they're going to be an amazing team this year.
So I compare Holtmann to Big Sean for a lot of the reasons you said earlier. It's very solid, occasionally a flash of brilliance, but no classic albums. Nothing that Holtmann has done that is, is gonna live on forever. He did have that Sweet 16 run with Ohio State, but he's never made it to a Final Four. I think, they're both likable, they're talented, they're pretty low key, but they just don't belong in the same conversation as the elite rappers of their.
Yeah, exactly, like that, and that's kind of similar to what I was saying before. And another, I feel like Chris Holtmann was pretty much known for his Ohio State days. Which is kind of very similar to the next guy that we're talking about, which is Thad Matta, the last guy. And I compared him to Nas, but more in Nas's later career and kind of towards the end of his career. I think they're respected and they're both good enough to be a Hall of Fame type of coach, but are kind of still capable of producing stuff, but not really. And his legend really comes from past greatness. I think Thad Matta, obviously 2 NCAA Final Four appearances, 5 Big Ten regular season championships, 4 Big Ten tournament titles, and the 2008 NIT championship. And he also has the most wins as a head coach for the Buckeyes ever. And I just feel like he is most known for Ohio State, not Butler. And I think Nas in his later career, where he's most known for his previous hits than when he was done is kind of a very good comparison.
Yeah, I think that. Oh man, I think that is because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say basically since the turn of the century, Nas's work has really dropped off.
Yeah.
Nobody can take Illmatic away from him. That's going to live on as one of the great rap albums of all time. But he hasn't been close to that in a very, very long time. Yeah. I also went for somebody who was great at one time and has really dropped off, who also had some health concerns. And the person I compared Thad Matta to was Lil Wayne. So the aughts, nobody was better. And like Drake, like I said about Drake or Kanye, at their peak, unstoppable. Carter 3, one of the great albums in rap of all time. This would be, to me, similar to what Thad Matta did at OSU, getting the Final Four, producing NBA players like Greg Oden and Evan Turner and Mike Conley Jr.
Yeah, yep.
There's nobody who doesn't respect these guys at all. Everybody loves them, seem to be great guys. Everyone appreciates what they did. Lil Wayne is a legend. He influenced the current rap.
I mean, I love Lil Wayne, if I'm going to be honest. I think he's probably one of the most talented rappers to ever exist, just based off talent and skill.
Absolutely. His mixtapes are awesome, and he's been at it since he was a kid.
It's kind of like Eminem, the way he's just able to like rap, nothing written down, and just kind of freestyle. I feel like that's just insane and amazing.
Like I mentioned earlier, both have had health issues. Lil Wayne has epilepsy. He also, I think, had appendicitis, and Thad Matta has drop foot, which I'm not familiar with exactly what that means, but I think it makes you sort of walk with a limp. And then what's unfortunate, and really the heart of the comparison, is that their work just dropped off, and some of it was related to health problems. Still legends. I think everybody still is cool with these guys, but they just have never gotten close to recapturing their earlier dominance, and they're not going to.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Kind of similar to Nas, like later career, most kind of just burning out. Quickly before we end, top 4 head coaches in the Big East Conference
right now, or their body of work.
I'm gonna say right now, but I want to say it as which coaches can do the most with nothing.
Which coaches can do the most with nothing? Okay, that's if I look at it that I would say probably number 1 Pitino. But let's not say nothing with the least amount. Who gets the most out of the talent they have?
Exactly.
Is that what you mean? Okay.
Starting with something that people are not expected to be a crazy good team and creating a crazy good team out of it, or just building talent.
Yeah, I would say Pitino's won everywhere he's been. He won at Kentucky after they were coming off. They were coming off a scandal, and nobody wanted to take that job.
Yeah.
He won at Iona. He won over in Greece. The only he won at Louisville. The only place he didn't win is in the pros. So I think
and Saint
Pitino can just do it all at this level. I think Hurley's second. I think Hurley's shown that he can go from the A10 and where he was succeeding, and then go to UConn and revive that sleeping giant. And UConn's a tougher job than people think, in that Connecticut is a small state with not a lot of talent, so you have to have a national footprint in order to succeed there. And he's been able to go and get guys from all over. So props to him for that. Third, I would put Cooley. Cooley has also won everywhere he's gone. He wasn't able to get great players at Providence, but he was able to develop people and take guys that were 3 and 4 stars and make them into to NBA players. He also, he has a very proven formula. Year 3 is always the year where things seem to click for his teams and become tournament worthy. I'm hoping that'll happen for us this year. So I think he's just always made a lot out of not great parts. And then who would I put as the 4th best? I mean, I have to go with Shaka, but just Shaka based on what he did at VCU more than what he's done at Marquette. He's been able to recruit pretty well. Marquette surprisingly has a really good NIL. VCU he was awesome. Like again, he came out of nowhere. They don't have incredible facilities. They have a really passionate fan base, but Virginia has a lot of good athletes, but most of them are football players. So
yeah, I mean, in my opinion, one Patino is explanatory. Two, I'm gonna stand with it. I know, obviously, I'm getting a lot of hate for it, but he is. It's just, I think you could just read the numbers. You'd look at what he's been able to do.
Lean into the hate.
I mean, not even leaning into the hate. It's just my opinion, and I'm gonna say it no matter what, because no one's changing my opinion because they say that Dan Hurley has created stuff with a pipeline like UConn with as much money as he wants to spend in the world, because it's all about basketball and all they want is to bring back those W's. But 3, I'm gonna have Dan Hurley, and 4, Greg McDermott. And I think Greg McDermott has been able to really kind of create players that weren't big ratings out of high school, or were like 4 stars mainly, like Ryan Kalkbrenner, and make them into top dogs in the Big East. And I think that is just an amazing how he's been able to do that.
That's a really good choice, because if you think, my point earlier about Connecticut is that there's not a whole lot of in-state talent. There's probably even less in-state talent in Nebraska, right?
Exactly.
And who are you, like, where's your natural turf that you're going to? I guess maybe California. Even California's pretty far, right? You're definitely not on the East Coast close to basketball hotbeds like the DMV or New York or Philly. So and he's been able to make a great program that's very consistently in the tournament and sells out an 18,000 seat arena. So that's a really good choice.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for everyone for watching. Please follow us at Bleeding Blue and Gray on Twitter. Our YouTube is Big East Energy Network. I'm Big East Hoyas.
And I'm Hoya Optimist 33.
Let's go Hoyas.
Let's go Hoyas.